Awesome. So thank you all for joining us tonight or today or this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you are in the world as you are joining us. What actually is usually fun to do with a lot of our sessions that we do at Clear Admit is have the folks who are in attendance go into the chat and just let us know where you are tonight or today or again this morning, right? So let us know where in the world. It could be the region that you're from, the country that you're from, the city that you're from, just so we can get kind of an idea. And thank you for those who are already jumping in. So this is great. So I see Boston, from Pittsburgh. Wow, okay. A couple from Pittsburgh. This is awesome.
Yinzers.
There you go. San Francisco, okay. Carrollton, Georgia, Nigeria, thank you. So that must be pretty late, I would say, in Nigeria, or maybe pretty early, or I'm not sure exactly the time. Could be right on the border there, right? Pretty early in the morning, pretty late in the evening. Zimbabwe as well, Tampa. So all over the place here, which is awesome. 1 a.m. Okay, so I was pretty close. It was right at that turn of the day there. So thank you for staying up or getting up early, whatever it is you're doing, to join us. So we'll get started here. My name is Mike. I'm with Clear Admit. Clear Admit is an MBA applicant resource community. We do a lot of great content to help folks get into top business schools. One of those top business schools would be Carnegie Mellon's Tepper School of Business MBA programs, as well as the master's programs that they offer at the school. So really great partner school that we work with. And we wanted to run a session in tandem with Tepper tonight to really just talk about the fact that we're in the month of April. And for a lot of people, for full-time MBA programs, you may think it's kind of late in the process to kind of jump in, but it doesn't have to be late. And what's great about a school like Tepper is they still have some late round deadlines that maybe sound less popular historically, right? And there's a myth bust we can do here in a second, but those deadlines exist and people do get admitted in those deadlines and they do join the school only a few more months from now. The program will begin, I believe, beginning of August, right, folks? So you can get started right now. So if you're looking for that MBA and you're thinking I'm about a year out, and you're starting that process, you might be like 3 months out, and you can start at Tepper in August right now. So we have a couple of current first-year MBA students at Tepper who have joined us tonight. We're going to ask them a few questions about their experience in the program, the application process, and like I mentioned, a few other things that came through the registration. And we'll also take some questions tonight. So if there's new things you think about as we're going through some of the topics that you want to learn more about, feel free to put it into the chat or the Q&A, and we will tackle as many questions as possible in the next 50 minutes or so. So with that, I will kick it over to our panel to introduce themselves, and we can really get going from there. So who wants to go? Sam, you want to jump in there first?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to.
So
Okay.
yeah, just give us, sorry, I didn't even introduce this the proper way. So
All good. All good.
give us your name, your status at Tepper, maybe where you're from, and since we talked about it, if you want to talk about like where you're going this summer, we'll go with that.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can do all of that hopefully rather quickly. So I'm Sam. Really happy to be here. I'm a first year MBA here at Tepper. I'm also our student government's admissions chair. So if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to serve as a resource. But I'm originally from the Bay Area, California. Was in retail, managing stores in LA and then up in Seattle. Decided I wanted to do something a little bit more global, and I wanted to get more experience across the whole value chain. So I ended up doing a gap year in Taiwan, and then I came here to Tepper, where I have recruited for consulting, and very lucky to have secured an internship at Alex Partners over the summer. So I'll be in their general strategy practice in New York. And also had the pleasure of going through that process with Olivia. So I'll pass it over to her now.
Yes, thank you, Sam. So hi, everyone. I'm Olivia, also a first-year MBA at Tepper. I'm originally from Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I went to undergrad at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and I studied both mechanical engineering and product design. And from there, I joined a company called Emerson with a leadership development program that rotated internationally across different business units, and mostly worked as a product marketing manager for them. Decided it was time to pivot to business school. I always knew that was in the cards for me. So came to Tepper, and here I see Jake has joined us. Hey, Jake. So here at Tepper, I recruited also for consulting, and this summer I will be working as a summer associate for Deloitte in Boston. So I'm also our VP of Professional Development for the Tepper Consulting Club. So happy to talk about consulting as well.
Awesome. And Jake just jumped in, so I don't want to put you on the spot, but we're doing intros. You did not miss a thing. Just my very long-winded introduction from my side. So feel free to jump in and let us know, first off, where you're joining us from, because it looks like a nice day outside. Uh,
Yeah,
and a little bit about like where you're from, how you joined Tepper, and maybe like what you may be getting into this summer.
sure, totally. Can you guys hear me all right? Cool. Yeah, so I just came from a networking event. It was a robotics network here in Pittsburgh, and I my iPhone decided to update as soon as I tried to log in, so that's why I'm a little late, and I apologize. So I was in the Army for 10 years, originally from Chicago. I was a bomb squad commander, and I was a fourth round admittee last year. And I'm a huge tech person, so I just interviewed with Samsung. Excuse me, waiting to hear back from those guys. And actually, I was one wheeling, but I decided to stop to talk for a second. But happy to talk about tech. I'm also the president of the Aerospace Defense and Tech Club, and yeah, we love Tepper, and we're just happy to talk about it. So thanks. If there's anything else, just let me know.
Awesome. Thanks for dropping in. That's pretty cool. I like the live view here. So feel free to tour us around wherever you are because it's really, really interactive. Do not fall down, and our clear minute insurance probably doesn't cover anything. So
Yeah,
okay, anyways.
no worries.
But this is great. Okay, so first couple of questions that I want to just knock out right away because we took a lot of questions that came in through the registration. And there was a lot of the same question that came through. And since some of you actually came through in this process of the current students here, the main question was, is it too late to apply to enter this fall 2025, right? So the answer I was given from Tepper Admissions is no, right? And so we know that. And they are still accepting applications for round 4. The deadline will be May 5th. And then June 9th for the online hybrid program. Okay, but talk about that experience, right? So coming in a what is perceived as a late round, right? What does that do for you as a candidate? Do you feel any differently than any other candidates? Any different preparation for you? Like, who wants to kind of tackle that process of kind of, right? You're getting in that process, you get admitted, and now it's like maybe what feels like a sprint, but tell us how it really feels, Anybody
Yeah,
want to, yeah.
I'm actually more than happy to take that because I'm also a round 4 admit, which is part of why I decided to become the admissions chair because I wanted to help dispel this myth that it's too late to
Yeah.
apply in these later rounds. But um, I think it's absolutely valid to think that you might be at a disadvantage, like you might feel like there's other people that have already like gone through the process earlier. But I think what we really want to share from our Tepper side is that like we know that everyone goes through life at a different, you have different life stages, and you might come to Tepper for very different reasons, and that might really impact your timeline. So there really is no disadvantage to applying in the separate rounds, and the reason why we have them is so that people can apply. So please do apply. Whether it's round 3 or round 3 is gone out now, but round 4, round 5 for online hybrid, which is also a wonderful option as well. So I mean, in terms of my application process, it was extremely smooth. I was able to get connected with members of the Tepper community as well as the Tepper admission staff very easily just by reaching out via email. So I would highly recommend doing so because our admission staff is amazing and honestly the best that I worked with throughout my application process. But everything that you need to know is clearly laid out on the website, as you're probably already aware. So I won't go into too much detail there. And if there's anything specific that about the later round process that you're curious about, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I can chime in and echo that. So for me, I think I was like round 3 or round 4. I remember I committed first week of June. So whatever the timeline was with that. And I was definitely anxious about it. I had kind of other plans and shifted around. And then ultimately found Tepper, and I was basically like, okay, do I apply now or do I wait a year and do it all again later in the fall? And so I did take that risk, and I was anxious about, will I get scholarship? Like, is this going to work out? Can I find housing? All that stuff. And it really was, kind of what I expected. Like, everything worked out well for me as far as scholarship goes, as far as being able to find housing in that time frame. It worked out well. So all that to say, definitely not too late. It's still time to go ahead and submit that application. And I think even the pre-work that you get when you commit to Tepper begins kind of end of June, July timeframe. There's some, onboarding work like with your resume, with the Master's Career Center that they encourage you to do. And even with that, I felt like I was just jumping right in with the rest of the cohort and had the rest of the summer to get everything together by the time we all got here in the fall.
Cool. So I just want to show you guys. I live in Bakery Square. It's right next to Google, and CMU is one of the big tech hubs out here. And so we have Meta, we have Google, and I also was a fourth rounder, as I said earlier. I was medically retired, and as Sam mentioned, it is, everybody has life at their own pace. So don't feel like you're at a disadvantage because you're applying so late. Like, you miss every shot you don't take. And Pittsburgh's awesome. So if you have any questions about Pittsburgh, let me know.
I love this. Like, it's really cool to see you just flying around down there. It's awesome. All right. So thank you for that. And Olivia, you kind of already tackled kind of a second piece of this, which is the other myth, I guess, right, of these later rounds, round 4 specifically, is, the scholarship has probably run out by now. And it's great to hear that, no, it probably hasn't, right? So, so what happened to you last year could very well happen to other applicants this year, where everyone's still going to get evaluated for scholarship. Those who earn scholarships can still get those scholarships. So applying in round 4 versus applying in round 1 for next year and delaying everything by a full 12 months, there's really no advantage on the scholarship side to doing that. You just lose 12 months of being able to start your MBA sooner. So do not use that as your reason to skip applying now. Another main question we had that came through was, I need to take a GRE or a GMAT, and I haven't done that yet. And the deadlines are coming up pretty quick, right? So what should I do is kind of the question that was asked. And so how I'll ask that with you all is, how long does it take you to kind of prep, right? So as late round folks, were you prepping for those tests for a long time and then just decided late to apply? Or did you decide late to apply and then figured out how to do the test really quick? So there's kind of those two ways, right? So take us through, either of those stories and how folks should really be looking at that.
Sure. So I have kind of a unique situation. So I actually did not take the GRE. I submitted a waiver because I was a data analyst in the Army for the last 2 years before I got out. So I was able to demonstrate that I had quantitative capability and I was passionate about what I wanted to do. And if you're in a similar situation, being able to demonstrate that technical capability, it's definitely worth putting in the waiver. If you don't get accepted, you could still take the GRE, but for sure, if you are going to take the GRE, start studying like right now. There's a lot of really great resources out there, and you want to set yourself up for success. So that's all I got.
Yeah, for me, a little bit different. So I took the GMAT, and I did prepare for quite some time for the GMAT. I took it a couple times as well. I wasn't happy with my original score, so I really took the time to hone that and ended up taking it early spring. And so with that, I think, like Jake said, it depends on the amount of time that you have, whether you can submit a waiver to demonstrate those skill sets already. I'll defer to Sam on, the types of opportunities for different types of waivers, or not taking the GMAT or GRE or whatnot. But for me, that's what I ended up doing. And ultimately, I had a strong enough score that I did submit that to CMU.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in as well. So, like, kind of putting those two to get perspectives together, I think in terms of what Jake said, 100% from the admission side, if you do not have the time or you just don't flat out don't want to take the GMAT or GRE, thank you. Hi, Jake. Um, I absolutely recommend you to submit the waiver because a lot of people see it as a disadvantage, and 100% is not. The only thing that it does is that it removes that data point from your application, right? So it won't, it's totally neutral. It won't be positive or negative in terms of affecting your application. And, you know, as I mentioned before, talk to the admission staff because they will give you the best guidance of like, you know, based on your prior work experience, your educational background, whether or not a test waiver would be, you would be eligible or not for a test waiver. So I highly recommend doing that. Also, just because I know that is something on people's minds. And to Jake's point, you miss all the shots you don't take. So I've talked to a lot of candidates who are apprehensive, and I always say like, you just apply because the worst thing that you can say is no, right? And then the thing that you can do is reapply. And we look very, very kindly on people who reapply because that shows demonstrated interest, that shows grit. And then after that, if you do apply and then you get in and you feel like there are people who are like, I don't know if I'm ready, you know, like it's 2 months for me to prepare. Well, you don't even need to accept the offer. It's just an offer. So you'll, again, never know if you don't try. So I highly recommend if that's something that's in the back of your head of like, you know, holding you back from applying, please just go through the process. But, you know, if you are taking the GMAT or GRE, and I think it is a super wise decision to take the GMAT or GRE, one, if you have the time, two, if you have the resources, and then three, if there's other parts of your application that might be weaker that you want to shore up using the GMAT or GRE, I highly recommend doing so. For me, I felt like I didn't have as long work experience. So I had 3 years of work experience. I wanted to use the GMAT or the GRE. I took the GRE to kind of shore that up. And then I think that ended up being very successful for me. And I took the GRE 4 times, actually. And that I was not successful clearly in the first couple times, and then ended up being getting to a score that I wanted to. So I think either path that you can take, you know, both can be very successful. It just really depends on your own situation.
I love the spelling of additional myths, right? Is there too many times I can take the test? No, I mean, there really isn't. And they're going to look at your top score. So while it's interesting, right? Taking it 4 times, it's like it worked and you're in and it did a good thing. So go back and do that again if you need to take the test. But I appreciate your answers there because a lot of times when people hear that waiver word, they get a little scared thinking, oh, well, now I'm not going to have access to scholarships or it's going to weaken my application. I mean, you said it perfectly. It does not weaken, it just kind of removes a data point. I love that. So thank you for explaining it that way. So on that topic, right, what else is Tepper looking for, right? So you all have different backgrounds from different places, different undergraduate backgrounds, work backgrounds, right? So you're all different folks, but you're all at the same place, right? So how would you describe the people you're next to in the classroom and, you know, who comes to Tepper? What are the types of folks that you guys are looking for and who do you want to take classes with? Olivia, you want to jump first? Because yeah, I'll be fair and democratic. Everyone's getting their chance to lead a question. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm not as quick with the unmute button as these guys.
It's like buzzing in like Jeopardy, right? Yeah, who can get in there first? Yeah.
No, thank you for that. Yeah, I'd say, you know, one thing that's really stuck with me coming to Tepper is the community. And I think it's really cool how so many of us come from varying backgrounds, varying, you know, undergraduate degrees and work experience levels. You know, we have military, we have teachers, we have engineers. And so that's really a cool element of Tepper. We definitely do have that STEM focus. And so there's a lot of like-minded individuals in the sense of what we're looking to pivot into in a lot of ways. So you really get those people who are driven by detail, you know, really data oriented. I think that's a huge part and a differentiator for this program. So if you like data, this is a good place for you in any capacity. And then I'd say, you know, the people that come here are really down to earth. You know, Sam and Jake are two of my close friends here, and having the, you know, smaller size, let's say, program of roughly, you know, 150 to 180 students, you really do get to bond with each person to a really deep level. And I think that just goes into the network that you build here. we have, the weak ties, the strong ties, and through it all, I think everyone's just really willing to help each other out. I was surprised there's not a huge element of competition here. I thought it would be. And so that's something that I think helps us all grow together. And I'd say is an attribute that I'm sure they screen for in some capacity in the interviewing process, but just really, down to earth, willing to help out each other are some of the things that have stuck out to me.
Thanks, Olivia. Jake, did you want to take this or? Okay, I'll jump
Yeah,
in.
well,
So
I just wanted to say, well, I have a dog friend here. Sorry, my friend Alex is here. I'm hanging outside his apartment because lighting's good here. But also
we
just to
got so many friends in Pittsburgh. I love
I
it.
know, just to echo what Olivia was saying, absolutely. Like the recruiters do such a good job of finding the people who are going to collaborate on the team. Like even if you're competing for the same job, we're excited for the other person when they get that job, and it only helps us. We learn from each other. We're from such a diverse background, and we're all team players. We just had a really fun group project where so many of our classmates were collaborating to make it as fun as possible. And education is so much better when you're having fun while learning, and I think that's an incredibly huge benefit to being in the small class. But I'll pass it off to you, Sam.
Sure. So I think I'll try to add a little bit more than or something different than what Olivia and Jake said because I think that's all true. And to answer your question, Mike, I think most business schools are looking for the same thing. You're looking for people who know what they want to do, have clear goals, who will be able to do the coursework, will add to the community, right? So I think that's probably true of most business schools. I hope. But then like to really say like what's unique about Tepper and maybe what you can align yourself to in your application um, are kind of what I've seen as two things. Like the first thing is that I think the people are almost people that I wouldn't expect to go to business school. So I'll explain that a little bit. And then secondly, I would say are people who really, really value being able to do real work. So the first part I'll talk about in terms of people who I wouldn't think would go to business school. I think the reason why I say that is when I think of business school, I thought of it as a very elitist space. People who maybe even come from generational wealth, people are going into like hedge funds and like learning about, cases in a case like in this like wood paneled room. And that's just like the antithesis of what Tepper is. Like we're, as Olivia said, we're super down to earth. People don't just care about money, like we have people who really want to do like make a difference in the world, but want to do it through business. And oftentimes that's also linked to technology because we're here at CMU, which I also think is super unique. So that's like even for me, that's just like my personal journey. I never considered an MBA until I was at a junction in my career, and I just have felt like I've met so many people from diverse backgrounds, that have come to Tepper for varying reasons that I wouldn't think of as like a traditional background, but then have used the MBA to be super successful. I'm thinking of people like one of our friends who's starting like a startup for electric vehicle charging, and she has an architecture background. I'm also thinking of another one of my classmates that's excelling and true, like she opened a speakeasy in her previous life. So like people that I wouldn't think of as business school people come to Tepper and are incredibly successful. And there's just something about this space and Carnegie Mellon that I think really adds something to your profile and to your skill set that is really distinctive. But then the second thing that I mentioned, which is like doing real work, I think Olivia kind of like hinted at, but Tepper actually has like, I think 8 Nobel laureates that are affiliated with the school. The Carnegie School of like Business Theory was born at Tepper. And that legacy is really like living within our curriculum. So like we have a super rigorous core. We take optimization, we take statistical decision making, and it's like, are these MBA courses? Like you almost wouldn't think that these are things that you would need in business, but like when you turn around, it's like, okay, we're actually learning what makes business successful instead of looking at successful businesses and trying to work our way back. And I love that approach. So that's what I think is unique about Tepper that you might not see at other schools, and that you can kind of try, like my insider tip is that you can kind of try to highlight those things to demonstrate fit and understanding of what Tepper really stands for.
Helpful hints, and we'll get a couple more helpful hints in another second, because I think that's always important. Folks that went through that process that now are sitting in those seats. How do you get there? Well, let's ask people who did it, right? I can tell you, but I didn't do it. So, all right. So let's see. One thing that kind of fits in here, a question that came in through the chat while we're talking about like the folks you're in class with and who's sitting there at Tepper going for their MBA. What is the age cap for candidates? And I think it's important how that question was asked, right? And maybe talk to that, right? What is the age cap? Is there an age cap first off? And then what would that look like? And maybe you could talk through it from the perspective of like, both sides of it, right? Like what's the lower side of that question as well, and what's the higher side, and how does that all interact in the classroom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can start off really quickly
yeah.
on just like the admissions line, right? Because obviously there's no age cap, right? But then people would start to think about, is a full-time MBA the right program for you, or is an executive MBA the right program for you, right? I think that's kind of where the conversation goes. And in terms of, if you're too young, then is a deferred MBA the right program for you? So I would actually go back to my previous advice, which is engage with the admissions team, because they would have the best advice for you based on your unique situation, because I don't think there is a hard and fast rule on either end. But I would say 2 years is what I know in our program, in our class, is the shortest. And I think maybe like 15 to 16 years is the most work experience that I know of in our class. So that's what I've seen. And then if you're outside of that, I would highly recommend speaking with admissions.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. I'm glad you started. And I can share a bit about just like the classroom experience with those varying kind of age ranges. So Sam's talking more about like years of work experience. I'm gonna gear my answer more towards like actual ages. So I'd say the majority of folks cluster around 30. You have mid-20 all the way up to mid-30, but that's where we see the bulk of our class. And like Sam said, varying levels of work experience, backgrounds. And what's cool about that is you have some interesting characters in the class. Some have families that they've moved with, some are just fresh out of undergrad. So you have these differing backgrounds and personal lives, which really brings some color to the program. And it's been really cool getting to interact and bond with these types of people. But then also from a professional side, what we bring to the classes itself, those people who have more seasoned backgrounds, what they're sharing in the classrooms versus the younger side of the room, bringing more unique, innovative perspectives, having just gone through the curriculum. We really learn from each other, and everywhere in the middle too. I'm learning on both sides. I'm like kind of right in the middle there with 5 years of experience, and I'm 27. So it's a really cool experience to be in classes. You're all on the same playing field when it comes to that. You're all learning it for the first time together. But when we're going through cases or doing group projects, you can really lean on each other in different ways.
Thanks, Olivia. So I'm definitely on the right side of that bell curve. I was in the Army for 10 years after I graduated college the first time. And, I think I maybe struggle only with understanding some of the memes that the younger generations are plopping out there. But honestly, one of the best parts of being an MBA student is learning from your cohort. So there's so many people who bring like incredibly diverse experiences. And I really wouldn't worry about that age, but more about where you're at in that professional level of your life. So I was medically retired, and now I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing as an adult, which puts me right there in with everybody. But yeah, I wouldn't say worry about your age, worry about your experience. I think on the lower end, you won't benefit as much from an MBA if you're just graduated your undergrad, because it's really about networking. There are people on the younger end, and they're making the most out of it, especially people who are very technically capable. But yeah, as far as the high end, like, you're going to get along. Don't worry about any sort of I don't think I understand these generations, because we're all here in it together. So that's all I got.
Sounds good. No, great little nuggets from all three of you there. That's good to hear. So switching, there's a bunch of questions coming through, which is awesome. So thank you all putting these questions in the chat, because there's a couple here that I think fit in perfectly right now. So some of the backgrounds that all you guys have, right, with the consulting side or the tech side, this next question that came through is, and this person did some research, so they know that Tepper is strong in tech as well as digital innovation. Which I think Olivia may have mentioned that, I think, earlier too, right, with that side of things and what's in the core. So how does the core curriculum and the career resources support students that are looking for careers in, whether it's tech, product leadership, or consulting, digital innovation strategy? So overarching, right, like, how's the career center? How are those outcomes in those areas? And does the curriculum kind of go hand in hand with what the career center can offer to help you explore those outcomes? Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Do you want to take this one first, Olivia?
I can, just like the tech side of things, can kick us off. So yeah, so I have a tech background, and that was something really important to me, was to lean into that world a little bit. And so that's what was really attractive to me, looking at Tepper especially. And I think the curriculum has been a testament to that. It's very data driven. Like Sam said, some of our core classes are pretty technical. And I think that really is helpful, especially in the direction of business today, right? Like, everything is now more interconnected than ever. Decisions are data driven. Businesses are trying to figure out, what does AI mean to them and their company? And so us being at the forefront of that is a big differentiator. I've seen that in, my consulting interviews. It's a really big talking point that companies are excited about. And it puts us in a great position, especially in tech companies, in consulting, tech strategy, that type of space. Speaking to kind of the Master's Career Center side, there are specialized counselors for depending on what you want to go into. So for me, I was recruiting for both tech and consulting, and looking at both of those worlds to see if I wanted to continue in product management or, pivot to consulting. And ultimately, I chose consulting there. But those counselors really do help you cater your resume to the field that you want to go into, giving you expectation for what are those differences, what are they looking for, and what you should highlight as far as transferable skills in your existing resume, and then also in your coursework, and where you might need to focus a little bit more to fill any gaps, etc. And I'll also say there's a wealth of resources outside of just that, with things like the Business and Technology Club specifically, or the Tepper Consulting Club, which I'm on the board of. And so those professional student-led clubs have, a lot of the second years who have gone through recruiting in those spaces, leading and guiding you, and holding your hand through that. And I found that really, really helpful in kind of bridging that gap between what am I learning in my coursework and how am I translating that to these companies that are super exciting but super competitive. And so I think using and leveraging all of the resources that Tepper has, it's been a good journey and has set us all up for success. But Jake, you want to chime in with some other things there?
Yeah, I mean, if you guys haven't been able to tell by now, I'm somewhat of a personality hire, but also a super tech nerd. I love product and design, and bringing all those aspects into business. And I think what you're passionate about and bring that into, for me, it's tech. I'm really taking advantage of everything in Pittsburgh. Like I said earlier, I was just at the Google campus. I'm right in front of the Phillips Hue building, where you can see all these like beautiful lights and electric trees. And I just came from the robotics networking event. So there's so much to do here at CMU. But one of the great aspects of CMU is that we're right next to one of the the best robotics and AI schools in the country. So all the time I'm going over to the other side of campus and networking with those guys and learning about these amazing projects and trying to collaborate. So for example, one of the robotics teams is building robot snakes that can get into cracks to help save people after natural disasters. I'm personally trying to my startup is focusing on humanitarian demining AI software. So I'm trying to get some sponsored research to go to Ukraine this summer. I know I mentioned Samsung, but honestly, my passion's more in that realm. But I mean, right now I'm talking to you guys on my Meta Ray-Bans. So I don't wear glasses. These are just so I can have a microphone. So you're going to meet a lot of interesting people, and there's so many things to do at CMU when it comes to that. I think lastly, I saw somebody chime in about how we're innovating in the workspace. We are going to be one of the first generations that's expected to kind of know and understand how to use AI as a tool going into the business world. And CMU is trying to incorporate that into their future curriculum. I never coded before I came here once, and now I'm writing beautiful code and doing these amazing regressions and building 3D models and learning how to use that to help amplify my statistical data reading and bring that extra, I would say, skill set that puts me above a lot of my peers who barely know how to chat GPT, on Excel. So I think if you're looking for tech, CMU is definitely one of the right spots for you.
Wow, Jake, I don't know how to follow that one up. But I think the only thing I would add to that, especially because Olivia already mentioned our Master's Career Center, the curriculum, how rigorous it is, as well as our clubs, which are very, very robust. I think the only thing I would also want to add is that Tepper hasn't just suddenly had like a resurgence in interest in tech. Like it's always been a part of Carnegie Mellon, and that's reflected in the alumni network. I think that's really important to highlight because we have always attracted these types of folks, and that is going to be your support network once you are here and when you graduate. So like just recently, we had a talk with a McKinsey senior partner who is the lead for McKinsey Tech, and he's a Tepper alum, and literally leading technology initiatives for one of the world's leading consulting firms, right? And that's also reflected in the fact that when you network and when you tap into this alumni network, like I think when Olivia and I were recruiting for consulting specifically, but also, when you're recruiting for tech and PM, you're gonna find, in these big companies that a lot of people shoot for, even in startups, the CMU name and that brand is just going to help you get that extra inch of your foot in the door, which matters so much when you're going through that process. So that's just what I would highlight about the positioning of Tepper, and I think it really does make a big difference in terms of your outcomes.
This is awesome. Really cool stuff. I'm excited right now. Also, Philips Hue, I have all those lights all over my house. I never saw the building before. So that was, I promised interactive at the beginning. I didn't realize how interactive I was promising when we said that at the beginning. So thank you, Jake, for proving that we were going to have an interactive session here. That's awesome. Okay, so another question that came through, and yeah, we covered that other one. Structured career tracks, immersion experiences. So, right, so that side of things. There's another question here about kind of like interdisciplinary stuff going on at CMU, which you kind of have started to touch on, right? Kind of that networking between different buildings on campus and different majors and groups there. So I guess I can kind of combine both those questions into like, what are the cool features of the curriculum at Tepper? And does it utilize those other parts of campus, right? So Jake, if you expounded upon like that, like you're networking with these folks, you can now maybe go into business with some of these folks on certain things you're doing, but could you also like take a class over at a different school as an elective, let's say? Yeah, so if there's any thoughts on any of that.
Yeah, totally. So once you finish, I want to say it's after the second mini, your core classes, you could essentially take any class that's going to help you in the business world, which is like 90% of the classes here at CMU. So honestly, the world is your oyster. I have friends who are taking regular semester classes instead of minis, you really have that opportunity, and it's really about on you to go out and talk to those instructors and figure out which class is going to help benefit you the most. And then when it comes to treks, for example, so I'm the Aerospace Defense and Tech president. We go to Seattle every year. We're thinking about Cape Canaveral next year, but otherwise it's going to be Seattle again. So this last year we went to the Microsoft campus in Seattle. We were going to go to Boeing. Unfortunately, they had a strike, so they had to cancel that. But we did go to the museum, and it was great. And I got some leads at Boeing as well. And we got to go to Blue Origin, which is I'm still applying for. And Blue Origin headquarters is really cool, and it's really passionate to me to just see space exploration. I know it's a little hot topic right now and on the socials, but it's really cool just seeing us explore that last frontier. And CMU, I would say, realistically is in the top 10 schools in the country for tech, if not like the top 5. There's just so many opportunities. And like I said, I literally live like a 3-minute walk from Google and maybe 10 from Meta, as well as a bunch of other high-tech companies. So pass it off.
Yeah, I'd love to add on the interdisciplinary portion because that's actually been a highlight of my CMU experience. So I'm currently taking a class across the street at the Heinz College called Operational Fundamentals of Operationalizing AI, where we're literally being taken through by a professor who was a former partner at PwC, also a PhD in AI, also an MBA, for an end-to-end life cycle of how you would implement an AI project, which is I've never taken a class that's been that on the dot and like of the time. So that's been incredible. On top of that, I'd love to highlight also our Short Center for Entrepreneurship, which is incredibly interdisciplinary. It's actually a CMU-wide initiative that's not just MBA, but it brings in undergrads, brings in master students and PhDs. And that's an incredible resource for interdisciplinary collaboration. And then they also are a part of a bunch of classes, but one that is super popular is AI Venture Studio, where you get paired with different students across the university to create an AI product and then pitch it at the end of the class to a group of investors. And you can actually get money out of that and start your startup. And then lastly, in terms of interdisciplinary, a lot of people don't know that CMU has one of the best colleges of drama in the country. They have amazing school, just amazing talent there. And recently we just had an event sponsored by Tepper and the School of Drama, where they brought in a former SVP of Disney Entertainment. That was incredible. Like we also, so we got to hear from her, but then it was also cross-discipline. So we went through like a business case of like what you would have actually encountered if you were in her shoes, followed by like a tour of the Entertainment Technology Center, where they have like, I didn't get to go, but I saw the pictures. It was crazy. You get to see like animatronics. There's like literally like VR headsets, like these roller coaster rides. I was like, I didn't even know CMU had all this. But truly, I think that's one of the really unique aspects here is that we have that investment into bridging the gap between the different schools and different disciplines that brings a really like unique experience and learning opportunities.
Yeah, just double tapping into that. I went to the Disney event. So fun. I'm a big Disney fan. It was such an amazing event, even just to meet the undergrads and other master's students. I'll also say, with that first year, you do get a lot of the core classes. Second year is pretty much all electives. And so this is the opportunity that we have to now take classes in any school. So I'm going to be taking a class in the Heinz School and hopefully taking a painting class as well because I'm big into art. And yeah, CMU has that strong mix of obviously business with Tepper, engineering and STEM, as well as the arts. And that's something that really draw me to Tepper as someone who loves all three of those things. And then just real quick on the treks, just to highlight what Jake said. So during our fall break, we have the opportunity to go to varying cities depending on the career that you're interested in. So I went on the business and technology trek to Silicon Valley, where we went to a bunch of different companies, sites, got to network with them, got to really see day in the life experience that. There was also the consulting one in New York. And so those are just opportunities to kind of picture yourself in that environment and bond with classmates pretty early on.
I just wanted to add on, the Schwartz Center is #3 in the country, just behind Harvard and Stanford in terms of startups. Sorry, there's a couple of dogs, but they're really friendly. And the CMU School of Drama has several plays throughout the year. And this year they put on a Simpsons opera / apocalypse story. And it was probably one of the best student, actually, no, it was absolutely the best student production I've ever seen. And tickets were only $11. So you have that at benefit. Also, we had an Oscar winner this year for costume design in Wicked. So great school.
I love all the shout outs to everything Tepper. You guys like everything Carnegie Mellon. Sorry, I said the wrong word there, but this is awesome. Like the because that's the thing, right? You think like full-time MBA, you're going full-time, you're gonna be on campus, but like you're with the MBAs. No, like you're on campus again. Like you get to be a student, you get to experience those things, and those are great stories of all the different things you've gotten to experience. A question that came in that it kind of relates to the career discussions and Olivia and all of you guys, right? Touching on different things of West Coast, East Coast, where do folks go at the end of this program, right? So the question is the recruiting mostly focused on the East Coast, or is there enough recruiting on the West Coast, California, Silicon Valley? LA, and now we've already mentioned, right? So Olivia went to Silicon Valley, right, for a track. Jake, you did the Seattle trip. So I'm gonna guess yes. But are there any other nuggets you want to deliver on recruitment to outside of the East Coast?
Yeah, I can kick us off with that. I'd say, kind of highlighting what Sam said earlier, our alumni network is everywhere. So even if, recruiters from certain companies or sites aren't, like physically in Tepper, the alumni network is everywhere, and Tepper is really well known across the country and globally. For me, I was specifically interested in recruiting for the Northeast, and there was a lot of opportunity there where a lot of my peers are, looking at Silicon Valley or Seattle, and they're doing their internships there. We also have people in Tennessee and DC and Austin and really all over. Wherever there are big companies, there's going to be opportunity for Tepper students and alumni network there to connect into, is what I'll say. I'll also say there's a really strong Pittsburgh connection just being here, like Jake's literally by the Google office. We have those practitioners come on site all the time. And so you really can connect in with the Pittsburgh office of places, learn about their company culture, learn about their opportunities. And then, if there's specific offices or headquarters that you're interested in, even get connected through that or stay in Pittsburgh if you end up loving it. So all that to say, there's a lot of opportunity anywhere you want to go geographically. People are headed there.
Yeah, great point there with the connection to the companies, even though their headquarters may be on the West Coast, like they're all right there. I mean, you've all listed them all. So yeah, anything else on that one? I mean, I don't know if we may have covered enough of that. Yeah, okay. Oh, Samuel, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, I did want to add on a little bit to that
Yeah.
because I love the freedom aspect that Olivia mentioned. I'm not trying to drag other schools, but I think Pittsburgh is right at that kind of sweet spot where it's big enough to have kind of a campus, like McKinsey, BCG have offices here, Meta, Google, right? But it's also small enough that most people do end up leaving Pittsburgh. So you have that critical mass of alumni spreading out all over the country. And there are schools where, maybe their alumni network is squarely in Boston or, like Texas. It's possible, like if that's what you want, that's great. But for me, I wanted a bit more freedom. I didn't want to necessarily get pigeonholed into like, oh, if I want to recruit for this company, I'm going to have to go to this specific office because that's where our pipeline is. And I just love that aspect of it. Further, I think Olivia mentioned the global aspect. So switching hats, I'm also leading an Asia track to Asia in just a couple of days, actually. And I mean, I was reaching out to companies and alumni through that. And I really got to see the power of the alumni network and the CMU Tepper brand up close. We're going to some of the biggest companies in Asia, from TSMC in Taiwan to SK Hynix in Korea, to even PTT in Thailand, which is the number one, like the biggest market cap company in Thailand. So I really was able to genuinely like experience that because I wasn't sure, I was almost an experiment. Like, is this gonna work? Is it not? And it was really cool to see that kind of come together.
It's great. It sounds like a good trip. How long is that?
It's going to be 3 weeks actually across 4 countries.
Weeks. That's awesome. That's a lot of time. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so Pittsburgh. So Carnegie Mellon is based in Pittsburgh. Couple campuses kind of intertwined there, that part of the city, right? Some of you are not from Pittsburgh. I don't think Jake, you're not from Pittsburgh, are you? No, nobody's from Pittsburgh, right? So you all now live in Pittsburgh for at least a year. How is it? Like, what? Make us move there. Why would we go to Pittsburgh? What's cool? You mentioned a lot of companies there, but give us some other cool Pittsburgh type stuff that we need to know about.
Yeah, I'll happily hop on this one. So I'm somebody who loves to find like all the best places. I've lived so many places across the country. I think maybe I've moved about 8 times in the last 10 years. Pittsburgh has pretty much everything that you want from professional sports teams. I'm a big nature person, so you have like all the museums here. You have the aviary, but you're also so close to like all these national parks, Ohio Pile, um, West Virginia. You got Steamboat. You have realistically almost everything you could want, unless you're just looking for that really big city. The only negative side is maybe the winter. I don't mind it. I'm from Chicago, so I honestly think it's mild. Um, the fall here is super beautiful. I just took some amazing pictures this last fall as everything turned orange. It's literally one of the best falls I've ever had. Granted, I did live in the desert for the last 5 years, but um, there is honestly something for everybody here. Great music scene. You have great culture when it comes to drama. I went to opera for the first time. That wasn't the Simpsons opera. It was a real opera. And you meet so many interesting people because Pittsburgh actually draws in a lot more just because of the colleges. And I actually met somebody in our program who I was in the Army with. I didn't even realize because we all met each other when we were in uniform and had shaved faces and hair and beards now. But yeah, I love Pittsburgh. It's pretty cool.
I can chime in with my experience as well. Okay, so you guys, I knew nothing about Pittsburgh before I moved here. I was like, this is the middle of nowhere. I have no idea. I'm just gonna show up and figure it out. And I've been pleasantly surprised. It's been sweet. I was in Hoboken, New Jersey before this, so like always in Manhattan. It's not quite that, but I'd say still a lot of really good hole in the wall places, a lot of culture, little food spots. I'd say a very young, lively area, especially where a lot of the grad students live. I live in a town or a part of town called Shadyside. There's a lot of great restaurants. I'm going to shout out the bus system as well. So maybe some of you are coming internationally or from other places. I do have a car here, but I don't really need it, honestly. The buses are really great. I have a bus stop right outside of my apartment that takes me straight to campus. And so it's really well connected to the airport and then also grocery, etc. I think you'll find that there are people with cars if you need to go anywhere too. But just wanted to plug that if that was something you were nervous about. And then also for me coming into school, I was nervous about safety, just being like a small lady. And so I have felt very safe here. I'll actually, right after this call, walk to a bar down the street for our last bar night of the year. So every Thursday we have bar nights and my professor's going to be there, so I will be going. And I feel comfortable walking there at night by myself. So I think that says a lot about safety here. There are obviously opportunities if you don't feel comfortable doing that. You always want to be smart about those things. But if you're like me, that was definitely something on my radar, and not knowing Pittsburgh at all, it took me a minute to figure out the scene, and it's been really good.
That's great. Thank you for that. And yes, the great plug for the bus system. It's underrated that people don't mention that type of stuff on these types of chats, but that is super helpful, especially as you mentioned, people that come over that won't have access to the cars and different things. And yeah, walkable city, definitely easy to get around the buses as well. Really cool stuff. So to make sure we don't use too much of your time. You guys have all been fantastic, by the way. This has been a really good session. I want to make sure we leave like one last fun one for you. Not that the Pittsburgh one's not a fun one, but one last fun one of just kind of like, what's your advice, right? So we all want everybody on this call to eventually apply and get into Tepper, and maybe you'll see them all on campus in a few months, right? If they all get in and things go well. So what's your advice for somebody who, you were in their shoes a year ago, right? So you've been through this, you had those nerves, you had those kind of questions in your head. What do you want to say to folks? Oh, nothing.
Okay.
Figure it out. No.
Oh, okay, you got
Jake,
Sam,
you want to take it
got
up?
You'll get there, guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Yeah. I will say this, like I literally disarm bombs for a living and I was still nervous about this next transition. So don't feel bad about yourself. And don't cast yourself out. Take that opportunity, jump forward, reach out to any of us. Like you could reach out to me on LinkedIn, especially if you have any vets. I'm in the vets club. I would love to help you. But anybody, honestly, if you're actually committed to trying to come to Carnegie Mellon, I would love to give you any sort of tips or mentorship. I'll look over your things. It's a great school and it's a great culture. And I think if you really want to be part of a team and a culture that actually cares about success for everybody, this is one of the best schools that you can go to in the top 20. So take that step. Don't be afraid to take that leap because it's going to be super rewarding once you get here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jake.
You want me to go next, Olivia?
I think you're a good closer. You go last.
Okay, I'll
You'll
close.
close us out.
There
I
you go.
just feel like always inspired when I talk to Sam. So you're gonna do that last one. Yeah, for me, it's kind of two things. One is a reminder to be yourself. Like, I know in this time you're like, okay, what are they looking for from me? How can I, show off my best skill sets and do this and that? And, in the interview process, what are they looking for? No, you guys are all amazing people with unique backgrounds and you bring unique skills. Tepper wants to see those unique skills and we value those things about you. So the best thing you can do for yourself in this process is staying true to yourself and your interests. Don't change because, oh, I think I should like engineering, or I think I should do this path because it sounds prestigious or whatever. No, like this is a big risk that you're taking to go to grad school and potentially leave a job and a career and potentially have a family, and take them with you on this journey. There's a lot that goes into this decision. So it's okay to be nervous about that step. It's okay to be excited about that. You're gonna meet a lot of cool people and wherever you end up, but just remember that you are you and not anybody else.
I love it. Scream from the rooftops. I love that. Yep. Oh man, this is great.
Yeah,
So
thank
you
you
got to
so
beat
much.
that. You got to beat both of those.
Yeah,
This
I
is
don't know
great.
how I'm
Like
gonna
you got to
do
close
that.
on those.
That's
Oh my
great advice,
God.
Olivia. Super good.
Yeah, good luck, Sam. I mean, wow. Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about how I'm gonna tie the bow here.
Yeah.
I think to Olivia's point and Jake's original point of missing 100% of the shots that you don't take, I would say
Michael
don't
Scott.
hesitate. Yeah, Michael Scott, who's from Central PA, Scranton, Central PA, whatever. Okay, I
We're doing
think
a Scranton
my
trip,
number
by
one.
the way.
We are?
I am. You guys are invited.
Okay,
Get
great.
on the one wheels and get out to Scranton. Yeah.
um, the number one thing I guess I could say is just that you have to understand yourself and you have to understand this school. And if you can put those two things together, I think that's the key to having honestly a successful career in general, but just successful being here at Tepper. So wherever you are in the journey, whether it's you've already applied, you're thinking about applying, or you're about to submit the application button, I would say just think deeply about what you really want out of this experience and how Tepper can help you get there. And the clearer idea you have about that, the more passionate you are, the more you can visualize, people always talk about visualizing success, right? So the more you can visualize that, I think the better, because once you get here, we're ready to welcome you. It's going to be a wild ride. But like Olivia said, you're going to grow so much. You're going to gain so much knowledge, community, even just opportunities. And I think you will miss all of that if you don't take that shot. So wherever you are, please do take that chance seriously and reach out to any of us. I think all of us, the three of us, would be happy to chat and help out where you are in the process. And same with the admissions team as well.
Plus, if you end up at Tepper, you get to hang out with these three awesome folks. So definitely put those applications together, put your best foot forward. It's never too late, including right now. You still have some time before these next deadlines. So I want to thank our panelists for absolutely crushing it tonight. I mean, this was a really fantastic session. Just your stories, very authentic, and just like so much going on with you three. But it seems like you love it. I mean, Sam was talking before the call started that classes ended, I think you said yesterday or today? Today, right? Today. And so Olivia's going to the last night out. Like, it's a sad time of year, but you guys are so excited to like get back together and come back after the summer, and like you love this school. So this was awesome. I really appreciate it. I see some of our attendees writing similar sentiment in the chat, being thankful for taking your time tonight. So thank the three of you for joining us. And for everyone else who joined within this session here, it is recorded. Come back, watch the rest. If you missed something, or if the connection jumped in or out or something, you want to re-listen to an answer, or look up that trek, or hear about that trip or something, or a club that you heard about, go back and watch the earlier part of this video, and you can go catch that. But thanks for joining us tonight. Hopefully you'll all be applying to Tepper very soon, or if not, maybe for the first round of next cohort. And we'll see you all very soon. Good luck with your process, and be yourselves. We'll end on that, because all three of you had better closings than I'm going to ever have. So awesome stuff. And thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.
Thank you all. Thank you, Mike, for hosting.